It is overtime here again at Old Favorite Friday, and I've got something really special here in the CBS, or Canadian Breakfast Stout by Founders. Now, for those of you not in the know, this is one of the OG whales, and I'm kind of aged out of the beer hype culture, so I don't know if that's a term that's still used, but back in the day, whales were beers that were so rare. They were the white whale, they were Moby Dick, right? Trying to find these beers was really, really difficult. And this beer is definitely one of those. It was one of the beers that was traded and sought after, and you would go to beer fest. People would fly in to things like Extreme Beer Fest in Boston just to have a beer like this. And I understand why. The base for this beer, it starts off as breakfast stout at Founders, which they've been making this beer itself since 2011. But before that, Founders started their breakfast stout. Breakfast stout then becomes Kentucky Breakfast Stout, KBS. And that's when they add their chocolate and their coffee and they age it in bourbon barrels. Then you go another level deep and you do that same beer, but you add maple syrup. Back in the day, they said that you actually had barrels they used. The bourbon barrels actually aged maple syrup as well. I don't know if they're just using maple syrup these days. I'm not exactly sure about that, but we're talking about adding maple syrup to the chocolate and the coffee and the bourbon to a beer that is already phenomenal. We've talked about Breakfast Stout here on Old Favorite Friday because it is one of those incredible classic beers that I think deserves all the love and respect. So we've kind of got several levels deep. There's now different versions of KBS, so Founders has really built a reputation on making great beer, but this line of the Breakfast Stout, KBS, CBS, is really something special. I can now find this seasonally, at least at Total Wine & More, so local places down here. It used to be a brewery exclusive. Like I said, it used to be very hard to get to, but I'm just thrilled. I have not had this in years. I don't know why I haven't had this in years. I think it's just one of those things. Like the reason why we do this series is to talk about beers that we kind of maybe not forgot about, but we maybe forgot how great it was. My first sip of this blew my mind. I'm going back for another one. And we talk about balance so much, and I think I kind of like I'm beating a dead horse, but it's really important. There's smokiness, there's vanilla, there's the sweetness of the maple syrup, there's chocolate, like gooey, rich, dark chocolate, milk chocolate even more so. You obviously get the coffee flavors. There's all of that in this glass, delivered in a full-bodied beer that is not cloying at all, not overly sweet, and I can pick out each of those distinct flavors with not any one of them dominating the other. I mean, it's just perfect. This beer is, when you read the package and you read the ingredients and you go, what do I want that beer to taste like? It tastes like this. Absolutely phenomenal. This is a beer that is meant, by the way, don't have this beer super cold, let it warm up a little bit so you get more of that flavor and aroma. It's important, especially for Imperial Stouts. This one weighs in 11.7%. I'm not saying you drink it warm, but you definitely are going to express more aromas and flavors if the beer warms up a little bit. Food and beer pairings for a beer like this can be tricky because it can overwhelm everything. There's so much going on in here. And then when you have to play off these flavors of vanilla and maple syrup and coffee and chocolate, you don't, in my opinion, want to play into those flavors as much. Basically, I wouldn't do a vanilla coffee chocolate dessert, right? I'm thinking go very simple. Ribeye steak, porterhouse steak, season it with a little salt and pepper. Maybe do like a red wine and shallot reduction, something like that, because that acidity is something that this beer really doesn't have much of, so that you can balance out those flavors a little bit. But just something rich that will go well with this and just make all those flavors pop. Something that will stand up power for power with a dish like that would go really, really well. Don't overthink it. But this beer is phenomenal. If you're lucky enough to have access to a beer like this, it's a seasonal, right? So you can't just go to your local grocery store and pick it up any day of the week. But if you see this beer and you haven't had it ever, you gotta try it. If you haven't had it in a while, you gotta try it and remember how good it is. And also, Founders just makes great beer. We feature their beers all the time here on Old Favorite Friday, and we'll do it again. There's many beers that I want to feature from Founders in the future. But thank you guys very much. Please like and subscribe. Please look around the channel and see other videos about great beers just like this, and we'll see you next week. Cheers.